Okay, so we're going to bring a little bit of text into this, and as the term goes on, as we go through tutorials over the next couple of weeks, we'll really get into a little more detail with type. InDesign allows us to do so much with typography, with typesetting. You can really get into a deep rabbit hole when it comes to that. So for now, we're going to keep it pretty simple. Even in the weeks to come, we're not going to get too complicated, because much of what you can do, you guys simply don't need or wouldn't need to do. But to do a proper layout and to arrange your type correctly, there are a few things, of course, that we have to pay attention to. So we always have to remember that when you're working with type, you're of course using the type tool here, the T, but you have to create a type frame. Now, one of the things that becomes challenging with that when you're new to this is that if you just click and create a frame, you sometimes can click into an existing shape, which makes that shape a frame. So if I wanted to create a new text frame for some type here, but I just came into my layout and I went click and made a frame. Usually that's okay. Even when I click on top of something, I've made a separate frame. But I have to click and drag. What happens often, and this can be so frustrating when you're learning this, you go onto an object and you click, and what you've actually done is made that option into a type frame. So now you can see that this has actually been turned into a type frame. So you definitely want to be careful of that. Whenever you are starting a new block of type, you'll want to use, again, the type tool. And even if you're unsure, you're just like, I want to be careful, it's okay to move out into your pasteboard, into this area, click and drag to make that initial type frame. Of course, if you know that you've got blank space here and there's nothing there, you can click and drag. So I'm going to do that in here. I'm going to use the margin again, but I'm also looking for a cue of where to start my type. So I'm going to drag down. Before I draw this frame, I can just go up to my rulers, which are on. And if you don't have your rulers on, you can go to View and it will say Show Rulers, or you can do Command R. And I'm going to click on the ruler. It doesn't matter that I have the type tool selected. Once I go over the ruler, it will let me select. I'm going to go right into the ruler, click and drag. I'm going to bring a guide down. Now you're going to notice something. When I bring a guide down outside of my page, it'll make that guide go on the page and on the pasteboard. If I drag on the page, it'll just be confined to the page. So if you find that some of your guides are only on the page and some, when you make them, are only on are on both the page and the pasteboard, it simply means that when you made that guide, you were either on or off the page when you made it. So I'm going to drop it in line with this shape that we made here, because that gives me a spot to land my type. And by land it, I mean make that type frame. But in this case, I'm going to just undo this for a moment. I'm going to go back to my main selection tool. I'm going to shorten this up because I found that this space was a little much. So I'll shorten that a little. It'll still maintain the curve I made. So now I'll go again, bring a guide down. That's a little better. And then I can go to my type tool, make a type frame. So a 1/2 inch from this edge, 1/2 inch from the bottom. So I'm going to try and maintain that 1/2 inch from this section over on the right here. And then I don't have any written type. I don't have anything that I want to necessarily paste into this at the moment. So I'm just going to go to my type menu and go fill with placeholder. And that gives me something to work with there. Now we saw this last week. I'm going to make this a 2-column frame. So right now I'm in the type. My cursor is live in the type. I want to make this 2 columns. So I have to work with the frame itself. I'm changing the frame, not the actual type. So I'm going to go back to my main selection tool. Now the frame is activated, which of course brings up my object menu up top. And in that is my column number, how many columns I have. Again, maybe you're on a laptop and you don't see this, you'll find that the laptops, of course, can't show as much as a desktop computer like this. So if you're on a laptop, you may not see this. You can go into the object menu and go down to text frame options, which is quite frequently you would use things in this. So I go to text frame options, and in here I can change the number of columns. So it's a little hard to see, but this is the columns section. I'll turn on preview. I have the option, so I'm going to turn that on, and then I'll see what it's going to do before I actually make it do it. So I'll make that 2 columns, and I'll say OK. Now what we're seeing again, we've got an error here, and that's okay. We have the green or the red light down at the bottom, and we have the error that we only have 1, and I can see it. This is pertaining to this error here, which is indicating overset type. That means that when I made the frame columns, some of the type that was in there fell in, and it's hidden within that frame. There's too much type for the space at the moment. Now, sometimes we can just open up the frame and we get enough room, but in this case we don't want to. We're trying to maintain this space here. So if I had to keep this content, in this case I can just shorten it. I can delete that content and it gets rid of that error. But if I had to keep it, I would have to adjust a few things. Maybe my layout, maybe how wide my columns are, where it lands here. The most important thing in layout is the content. It doesn't matter how nice the layout is if you can't show or contain all of the content that you have to. So we saw this a bit last week where we had the 3 columns and 3 different sections. So I'm going to make this 3 columns, and I'm going to bring it all the way across for a moment. I'm going to see where that would land. So although I could probably make it work having 3 columns here, I don't want to do that. I would probably do 2 here, and then I would make another type frame over here for whatever I'm doing in the sidebar, for example. Now if I had titles that I wanted to put up here, and please understand, a lot of this, we're working with Latin gibberish here, but if it was actual content, we would have to do some formatting with our content. We're not there yet. We're not going to worry about that in this tutorial, but we always have to make sure we're formatting things correctly, and that just comes with it's based on the content we're working with. But if I wanted to have a title here, I'm just going to type something, article title, I'll press return. Now remember that when you're working in columns, if you don't want the type flowing like this right now, this type is reading down to here, it's starting up there and flowing. If I wanted to have, I'll get rid of some of this type here for a moment. If I wanted to have 2 article summaries in this 2-column frame, I have to use that break character. So I go into my type menu and I'm going to insert a column break. So it's going to break wherever my cursor is live, which is right here at the moment. It's going to break that content over to the next column. instead of doing this, which will leave a bunch of returns that I can show you here, I want to do that without making all those returns. So I'm going to go to type, insert break character, column break. Now we don't get all of those returns, and this is where it needs to be. So I'm going to copy article title here and paste and return. And then of course I can format this. I can choose a different typeface altogether and make it a different size. I'm going to use my key command, Command Shift, and my greater than arrow that's down near the space bar. Copy that. Paste. So it's not very pretty, but you get the idea of how you start laying out type. You're considering your title, your body copy. Now if you have images, you have to make room for those. Maybe now I do have to bring these down, and then I bring in, I'm going to press W here because I don't like working this mode. I bring in a box that I might place that image into. Maybe that aligns there and aligns with my column. So remember I said we can place an image into a shape. Here we just placed the image and then we modified it as we need to. I have the shape already, and because I want these to be the same, I'll use this and then I'll make sure I clone it or copy it to be over here. So I have my shape selected. Any shape you have selected, when you go to File and Place, you'll be able to bring an image into that. So if I choose Place Now, that image went right into that shape. Obviously there's a lot of that image missing. It's a large image. So if I click that circle, there's my image. The image goes all the way out there. So that's okay. I know where it is. I clicked it. Now I can go to these parts of it, hold Shift, and scale it down. Hold Shift, scale it down. Now one of the problems that happens often when students are doing this in the classroom is that when they bring a large image into something like that, or they paste a large image in and they only see part of it, whatever you're doing to get that image in and you only see part and you can't find how to scale it, it's so frustrating. Zoom out. When all else fails, zoom way out. And then you start to see what you're not seeing. So in this case, here, I'm just going to undo and go back to the way that was. This one is quite large, and let's say it went like that. And you're just looking at your page like this, and you're like, where's my image? Where did everything go? First thing, find that little circle, activate the image, know that this orange is indicating where that image is. But then you see, well, you can't see it, and how do you scale this? So I always just say zoom out so that you can get a clear view of what's going on. This image is in that little window. So now I can go with my main cursor, I can go and I can scale that down. And be careful, this is another thing that can be a little frustrating. When you scale it down, but you scale it down beyond the window you're trying to see it in, beyond the shape. Well, now you've got that kind of hidden out there. So we know where it is, but even if I didn't, if there's a circle there, there's an image in that space. It's just out of the viewing space. So I can click on that, bring that back, and then use my Shift key, always using the Shift key. You don't want to be doing this. You don't want to be skewing that. Make sure you use your Shift key. and try to just keep a safe distance so that you're not losing that image in that space. Okay, so press W. So now if I wanted to have the same size, I have a few options, of course. If I drew another shape to put an image in, I can select this shape, and up at the top it tells me what the width and the height are. I could write those down, make a new shape, and enter those. Or I can, using my main cursor, go back to working mode here. I can click on, now don't worry, as long as you're not seeing the hand, you're not going to move the image. So even though the circle's showing, I'm here, so I can click, hold Option, and drag. I have to do that again because I did it the wrong timing. So Option, click, Shift and drag. Option, click, Shift and drag. Takes getting used to, absolutely. And then if I had another image, I could remove this one, or I could simply click this, go to File, Place, and the new image I choose will kick this one out and the new one will come in. So all of these little things, it's a lot of little finicky things that you're trying to do. Just go slow. That's all I can say. Go slow. If you get frustrated, step away and then come back, maybe watch tutorial again, send me an email asking me, you know, I tried this, what is going on? You can even send me the file if you need to. So please never get stressed over this stuff. That is when InDesign really gets control of us. When we become stressed using it, it's really not that special a program or that important that we have to, you know, strain our happiness while using it. So just, again, always be patient with yourselves, because these little things, like just scaling an image in a shape, can be challenging at times when you're new to this. Okay, I'm going to show you, just checking my notes, one more thing here, and then I will, I'll give you a break from this. This has been a long one. So I haven't really formatted this type. I'm going to actually make this type justified, which means left, right, justified, and it has the clean lines along the side. I'm going to show you that because it's something that everyone likes to do, but I believe it was last week, I mentioned, I'm just deleting this out. By the way, I'm doing function delete, or the FN key in the lower left. I'm holding it down and holding delete on the Mac. That's a forward delete. So I'll show you the justification, and then I'll show you what's called a text wrap. Okay, that's fine. Grammar is incorrect there. That doesn't matter. This is gibberish. Okay, so I'm going to select this type. And when I have that type selected in my object panel, I can see the alignment tools for the type. If you have your paragraph window open, you can see those as well. And the one that I want to work with when I'm justifying type, it's very rare that you're going to use any other rather than justify last line left. Now this is justified when the left and the right of those columns you want to be the same, like newspapers and magazines and so on. So I'm going to choose last line left. Last line center is, you would use it. I can't even think of an example when you would use it because I really don't use it often. Maybe on something you're trying to make very elegant, that has very little type. The justify all lines will just make a mess, because even the last line will somehow have to adjust to fit. So I'm going to go to justify with last line aligned left. And then like I said, we get that funny spacing. I'm going to do that to both for a moment. But there is a way to fix that. You'll want to have your paragraph panel open. So to get that, you can go to Window and Type and Paragraph, or you can go to the Type panel and Paragraph. And in here, if I highlight this, I go into what's called the flyout menu, this little menu in the corner of that panel, and I'll choose justification. And these numbers, now I've been using this for many years, so this doesn't look intimidating, but if you're new to this, it certainly looks intimidating, but I'll explain it quickly. So what we're trying to do is eliminate this odd spacing. There's no point in doing this if it doesn't look nice. It saves space, it gives some elegance, but yeah, these odd spaces make readability annoying, but also it just doesn't look good. So we eliminate those spaces. When you open these justification settings, by default, the word spacing is good. You very rarely have to change this. Now what that's referring to, the word spacing, is the space between words that you're allowing. And this one is typically fine. It's the letter spacing and the glyph scaling that I'll explain in a moment that will really help us clean this up. So I'm going to leave this because I can. I may have to come back, but this is a pretty good allowance. We want it 100% or what it should be, but we'll go as low as 80%, which brings them quite close together, or let them go, you know, over 50% variance here to move apart. We're going to leave that. We're going to go to letter spacing. That means all the space between these letters we're going to affect. And that's very useful because even though it's just a space between letters, the accumulation of all of them being adjusted has quite a good effect. So letter spacing, I'm going to do -3%. And over 0 is what we're always hoping for. But over on the maximum, I'm going to do 3. And then on glyph scaling, what a glyph is any inked character. So a C is a glyph, a comma is a glyph. Any character that's inked is a glyph. So we're actually going to scale this, but we're going to do so in a way that the program reacts, but our eyes wouldn't really notice because we don't want to skew a typeface. So I'm going to do 97 here. And I'll do, I'm going to do 107, which will open it up. Usually I do 103, but I'm going to bump it up to be a little more extreme here. See if that helps. So, you know, between 103 and 107, any more than that, the eye starts to notice, and that takes away the integrity of the type. So I'll turn preview on. We'll see what that's going to do. So see how that cleans up all of that, those odd spaces. I still have hyphenate turned on. I can turn hyphenation off, and it probably wouldn't affect this too much, but I have it on. And it's okay to have hyphens if you have like maximum 2 per paragraph. So I'll say okay. And then I'm going to highlight this one. Remember we looked at our eyedropper? I'm not going to go into the paragraph settings again and redo it for this. I'm going to go to my eyedropper because it's the same type size, the same characters, and I'll click that and it'll adopt those settings that I just did. And that worked pretty well in there too. Okay, so there is a lot with typesetting. You know, I haven't shown you how do we get some space between the article title and the type. Well, you would think we do return, but in fact we highlight that and we use what's called space after. and space after is right here. So I'm going to hit that a couple times, and I can do the same with the eyedropper over here. Apply that space after. Little things like that. There's so much you can do. We're going to see a lot of it, but these are the little details, and sometimes you really get into it, and sometimes you're just annoyed by it. So the point of all this is I never expect you guys to remember every single step. Fortunately, you have recordings you can go back on, but always ask. You should never be afraid to ask how you do something, even if you've asked 5 or 6 times. That's okay, because I know that every time I answer, you're repeating, doing it, and eventually you will pick it up. There's so many details in a program like this that it can be quite challenging to learn. One final thing I'm going to show you, the text wrap. I wanted to show you that. And you may have seen that when you see in magazines often where type actually flows around something. So I'm going to do that over here. I'm going to make a quick type frame. And I think I just did what I didn't want to do. Yeah, I did it. See, so I should have done that outside here. So I'll work out here, make a type frame, and then I'll fill it with placeholder. Now I can move that in. That's how easy it is to accidentally turn a shape into a type frame. Okay, so it's got more type than I need. I'm gonna get rid of some of this. And I'll justify it. So again, selecting all of it. I did Command A there. I double clicked, Command A to select everything, and I'll do justify last line left. I'll actually use my eyedropper to sample the justification settings I've already done. I'm going fast, I know, on this, but I just want to get to the point where I can show you the text wrap. Now, one of the things, I placed this type frame independently of these, so I do want to make sure that the baselines line up. So it needs a little bit of adjustment there. Even though it's not really near them, part of making a comfortable layout for the eye is making sure all type lines up, all baselines like that. And then if I want to do a type wrap, I'm going to do a circle here. So I'll make a circle using my shift key. So I went to the ellipse tool, held down, went to the ellipse tool, made the circle, and I'll use my shift key to scale it up. I'm going to place an image into that as well. File and place, Command D. I'll just use this image again. So you can see we only got part of it. That's a really big image, so I know I gotta zoom out. I'll click on this circle. Might have to do that before. There we go. There's my whole image. So I gotta scale that down, and maybe I'll just keep it so that it is their faces. I'm being redundant with images only because these are the only ones I have at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to move this over into my type area. I'll see how well we can get this to work. Circles are a little annoying to type wrap because of the way they behave, but they're good for an example. None of this layout is really looking very nice because it's not, I've just been quite random, but it allows us to see how this works. So what a type wrap does is whatever object that type wrap is applied to, it will keep the type from touching it. So right now the type is beneath this image. I'm not going to apply the type wrap to the type. I'm applying the type wrap to what I don't want the type to touch, what I want it to flow around. You can kind of look at it as a force field, keeping the type away. So I'm going to click on the object. I go up here to these are the text wraps, so right now there's none. If I do this, you'll see what it does. It wraps around the bounding box. This is the bounding box around my circle. If I do this one, it's shape, which is the one that I'm actually going to use. And then this one will do across the paragraph like that. Now, I'm going to show you the other way to access these because we need to adjust a setting. Although I applied the shape there because it's a circle, so the shape works, and it moved the type, I don't want the type touching this object. So I'm going to go to Window, and I'm going to open up the text wrap settings. And this is something worth playing with. You do it a few times, you start to really see how it works, and it can be quite effective and fun to work with, especially on a minimal layout like this. So Window, text wrap. So I have all of these here as well. And I can adjust the space that type is away from the object. So I'll just click here. Now, because this is a circle, it doesn't have separate sides. So it's only just giving me one option. But if it was a square, I could adjust how close it is from the top, the bottom, and left and right sides. And it would have the link that I may or may not have to select or deselect. So you can see working with a circle, I moved it away. It's a little awkward because of the circle. It's just however your type lands, it can be challenging, but wherever I move this, things will move to accommodate it. Even if I scale this, Command Shift, click and drag, you know, it'll behave accordingly because that wrap is applied to that shape. So you'll see that if you start watching for it in magazines and so on, you'll see it used a lot. It's a great way to bring in pull quotes, to bring in images and so on. But yeah, it can of course be a little finicky. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to show you guys today. That was a lot. And I did want to mention one thing. When you're thinking about your type size, on a newsletter like this, typically you want your type, this is probably a little big because it's default. This type is set to 12 point, and we call this, I'm up here over in the type settings, we call this 12 over 14.4. 12 over 14.4. That means it's 12 point type over 14.4 leading. The leading is the space between the type, between the lines. We saw that in our type lecture. So I'm going to select all of this, and you can do this by key command, Command Shift, and using your greater and lesser than. I'm just going to set this to about 10, and you'll see how much space it saves. And I can even open the leading up a bit, so Option and my down arrow. I just did one click of the down arrow. So you can see how that changes the type. For your content, this is called body content. I would say for a newsletter like this, you'd want to have between 10 and 11 point. So 10 might be a little small. If I do Command 0, we'll see. I would say it's a little small, so you could go up to 11. That would be a good type size. And I have a serif typeface for the body and a sans serif for the article title and if I had subheadings and so on. Okay, now we're done. So I would say when you're starting your newsletters, definitely, like I said when we talked about the project, get inspired, get some stuff you like, whether it's a magazine article, any design that you like, that you think you can be inspired by and work from, and that will give you a base. Having a sketch, looking at newsletter examples and so on, anything like that will help give you something to start from. Okay, and you'll find this is very instinctive. In fact, I'm looking at this and I know this is just a tutorial. This doesn't have to be a nice design, but myself, I keep looking at this and it's driving me crazy that this rule doesn't align with anything. So I literally want to go in and get this to, I want to clean this area up, so I'm going to get it to align with that. And that's part of working with this stuff. You just see opportunities to clean things up and start working differently. You know, I designated a space here, but now I realize, well, maybe bringing it up a bit because I can align the line in the windows with that or something. The more simple the work, or the layout, we'll say, the more minimal it is, the more details there are. That's one of the strange things about graphic design. We think minimal design is quite simple, but it's actually quite complicated, because the more minimal it is, the more those things that don't align or are skewed or just aren't sitting correctly really stand out.